This is Self-Care You with Scott, and today we sit down with executive life coach and founder of Next Crest Coaching, Kevin Hoover. What originally attracted me to Kevin's awesome story was their son, who is a cancer survivor at 7 years old. I later find out that Kevin and his wife have also co-founded Hug Your People, a nonprofit that helps kids who are fighting cancer. For the last 13 months, the Hoover family have been living in an RV, traveling the country with Hug Your People and making family memories. This is Self-Care You, and we're about to level up with founder of Next Crest Coaching and Hug Your People, Kevin Hoover. Today's episode is proudly brought to you by our good friends at Sleeman Mortgage Solutions. The largest investment in your life can be a scary situation. You need to reach out to Rivka. Not only is she one of the best people that you'll meet, but she's very knowledgeable when it comes to your mortgage. Call Rivka and the team at Sleeman Mortgage Solutions to help limit your stress that you may be feeling and get you to a place where you can enjoy this awesome accomplishment in your life. Shoot over to @Sleeman Mortgage Solutions on Instagram and limit your stress today. What's good, everyone? Thanks for sticking around for another episode of the Self-Care You podcast. Today on the show, we have Kevin Hoover and Hug Your People. It's an amazing conversation. But firstly, I wanted to thank everybody for all the support with the Level Up Leadership Program. We've built relationships with our program now where we are heading into the high school. So we'll be over at Bowmanville High School quite soon in Clarington Central as well, running our Level Up Leadership Program. So we really appreciate all the support. Also, Level Up Living shirts and sweaters are available. If you're interested, make sure you send a message over to selfcareupodcast@gmail.com. Send us a message on Instagram @selfcareu_levelup, or even just shoot over to www.selfcareu.net, and you can send information if you're wanting one of those shirts. Also, a big thank you to everybody who has supported the Level Up Athlete Fund. 100% of the proceeds and donations of the Level Up Athlete Fund go directly back to our youth in their community who are trying to play sports, who are financially unable. We're making sure that people in our community have the ability to enjoy sport, enjoy some friends, and learn some skills along the way. So if you can support $1 or $2, shoot over to selfcareu.net for all the information there, or you can check out our Instagram page @selfcareu_levelup for all the information. But as I mentioned earlier, we have an amazing conversation today with Kevin Hoover and Hug Your People. This is one of the best conversations we've had on the podcast, so enjoy. So today we have an awesome conversation with executive life coach and founder of Next Crest Coaching. That's Kevin Hoover. Kevin, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Scott. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you coming on the podcast. Kevin, why don't you give our listeners a little bit of business card of who you are and where you're from?
I live in the U.S., all around, in fact. I travel with my family in our RV for our nonprofit, but I'm an executive life coach. I work with high-level people in maintaining a fulfilled life and living a little better than maybe they would otherwise. Enjoy being outside, hiking, music, campfires, all the stuff.
Oh, great. You know, one of the things that you just mentioned there that I like to kind of get out of the way is executive life coach. You know, tell our listeners a little bit about what that entails, because it might be the first time we've had someone of your kind on our podcast.
I'm a simple guy, so I'll keep it in simple terms. Here's kind of how I think of it. A life coach, where maybe different than maybe a therapist. A therapist would work from present day backwards, meaning dealing with your past. A life coach is really dealing with present day forward. So unlike a consultant in prescribing you what to do, it really is discovering how you want to live your life, as far as the business intertwines with it, marriages, relationships, health, all of those things, and how you see your life moving forward. So that's kind of how I break it down. I work with you from present day moving forward, how you want to change and improve and move forward. And really, it deals with fulfillment. How do you feel about your life? You know, a lot of executives come to me and they say, "Hey, I thought the money would feel better." And it's not. And so we work on that and try to get them to a point where they feel a lot better about their careers. That's about as simple as I can put it as far as what is a life coach.
Yeah. So I imagine that rolls all into the brand, the Next Crest Coaching. I imagine that kind of is your business that you're working with.
Yeah, that's my signature coaching program for for my clients. And it really came about by realizing that people get to a certain level of success and they kind of stay there. They kind of keep celebrating that I got to this level. And eventually over time that kind of catches up, and they kind of inevitably ask the question, what's next? And so as we've been traveling for the last 13 months, it kind of is constantly asking yourself, what is next for me? I don't have to abandon what I've already done, or stop doing what I've already done. But as humans, we want to feel like we're evolving and feel like we're working towards something, even when we achieve success. And success is kind of this volatile thing. It's ever moving. And so once you get what you think it is, it's now something different. So Next Crest really deals with identifying those next peaks in life, those next moments, those next accomplishments, and really honing in on that and figuring out how those intertwine in the fold of your living.
Right. So is your client, can it just be a single individual? Do you deal with just like the corporate world, or are you just entertaining anyone that you can help, what we like to use the term level up, or in this case, try and get to that next crest, if you will, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it really, most of my clients are entrepreneurs of a certain level, meaning they've got a team. They've got, anywhere from 5 to 30 employees. They're doing $1 million plus in revenue. So in my entrepreneur space, those are kind of my ideal clients. Those are kind of who's showing up. I do work with a lot of C-suite folks. I just coached 4 executives from an international nonprofit. So they brought their whole team in, their whole executive suite in, to do some work. And so there was that. And then there's also some salespeople who are, in industries like mortgage or insurance or real estate. And they'll come in and they're building their team or starting their team or doing high volume, high level success. And they really want to learn how to manage that a little better so that they can enjoy the fruits of their labor. So it really is a lot of different people, but it hones in on the people who are already established in business and kind of looking for a little more balance or a little more what's next or a little more excitement.
Right. And, we with Self-Care U, we have a program that we teach. It's called Level Up Leadership. And we generally teach it to our athletes. I'm a basketball coach, and we teach in leadership that you don't always have to be the person to be the leader. A good leader actually finds others that do something else really well and bring them in so that they can teach the group, right? And I imagine that's kind of like how your business is rolling, right? They've adapted. Okay, we have a weak point in our business, and we need to, get Kevin in here so he can help us forecast how we can be better. Is that kind of run along the right lines, or?
100%, 100%. A lot of if I work for a company, a lot of them already have leadership training programs or things of that nature. And so I will come in as a complement to that, or if they don't have it, I will come in as that. So yeah, spot on.
Yeah, I'm pretty intrigued by this stuff, only just because in my day to day, I'm Lean Six Sigma certified. I understand kind of process, and sometimes we come into different departments and help out with their processes and things that they are maybe lacking in, things of that nature. So it just really gets me going. I've always kind of loved the world around life coaches because I'm like you, Self-Care U is built so that we don't live in the negative. We always are trying to move forward, and I love that expression that you gave us and that answer that we're going from today forward. We're goal setting. Now, do you have like a day-to-day game plan that you have that you try and stick to? This is how we goal set, or is it just kind of unique to each group that you have?
There's definitely a framework. I think I use two different frameworks. The first thing is the 3 principles in Next Crest, where we use time perception, we use goal distribution, and then we use legacy. So we use those 3 things kind of as a general frame. But then when it really talks about specific goal setting, there's 4 quadrants that we like to focus on, and most people have focused on 1 or 2 of them, but not all 4. Business being number 1, and most of my clients have the business goals. They're pretty clear. They probably are already working those pretty well. Then you have a health department, where your health goals, your fitness, your nutrition, mental health is a big part of that as well. You have your relationships, your marriages, your partnerships, your friend group, your even colleagues. And then you have, I think it's important to have a set of personal goals where no one else impacts but you. Right. It could be working on your patience, on your temper. It could be working on your thoughts, mindset, things like that. So we really hone in on those goal setting. And the idea is that, if business is going really well, it's almost a guarantee something else is not going so great. And so we have a constant metric of where to focus and where we need time. If we're making the most money we've ever made in our life, hey, probably check in with your partner and see how they're doing, see if they
Right.
missed you this month or
Yeah.
not. And so we kind of hone in on that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always something, might be leaking oil somewhere, or you want to make sure that you have a good
Yeah.
overview. Hey, listen, Kevin, the reason why we connected is I read your story, and immediately in the first couple sentences, I knew that we had to have a conversation for our listeners. And it's really, I wanted to chat about, the point that drew us together, which was this courageous battle your son had with cancer. Willing to share, maybe you could share some of those moments and what that was like for your family.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big part of my story. It really built the way that I live my life now. So it was March of 2019. My son was airlifted. He was, in pretty bad shape, and they found a tumor in his abdomen, and he was in total kidney failure. And we went in for a routine kind of thing, a little tummy ache, and we ended up by the end of the day, we were pretty well on the path to cancer. So it was out of the blue, no preparation, no warning, nothing. And so it hit us really, really hard. Over the next probably 3 or 4 weeks at that time, we were adjusting pretty heavily. We spent most of that in the hospital. We didn't go back home. I think one time we went back home over those 3.5 weeks. And we were prescribed 70 weeks of chemotherapy, 43 days of radiation, and a whole lot of concern and questions. And so we kind of had to regroup our whole lives. And my son was 4 at the time. I'll spoil the ending. He's doing great. He was in school today. He's
Awesome.
7. He's playing Minecraft. He's playing all the games you would want a kid that age to play.
Yeah.
So he's doing great. But through that process, it was some of the darkest days of my life. Really struggling with relationships, faith, business, obviously, self-worth, everything was just coming up in a really, really heavy waves. And as he started to win, I started to think a little differently. I think it was the first probably 2.5 months after that, things started to look up for my son. And I really had moments where I was like, I have to be positive. I have to be the energy that is lifting in the room, not deflating. I can't, and so every day it was really, I had to get me right first before I went into that. And
Right.
then it just kept going, and he kept winning, and just the signs kept getting great. And, fast forward today, and he's been out of chemo for about 2 years, 2.5 years. And, he's doing well. We're still not in the clear. You're never in the clear with something like that. It'll be part of his life for the rest of his life.
Right.
But through that process, I have to say, as I say, it was the darkest time of my life. I have to also point out all the good things that came from it. My outlook, my business, none of that would be what it is today without having gone through that.
Right. Almost like a blessing in disguise, I guess, if you will, but you never want to ever enter into that world. I'll share with you my mom, she's a breast cancer survivor, and she went through
All
a
right.
strong bout of chemo and radiation, and sitting on the sidelines and watching my mom go through that is, some of those moments stick with me, obviously still to this day, but I use them as life lessons
Mm-hmm.
and understanding at such a young age. I learned that. And um, you know, as I mentioned, I'm a basketball coach, and I happened to be in the gym the other day, and a good friend of ours' wife is another coach of mine. And his wife is going through breast cancer right now, and she's going through chemo. And I
Wow.
just happened to touch base with her and just see how she's doing. And she kind of gave me like a thumbs halfway up, like a little bit up, more like 60%. She's like, my day's
Yeah.
done. I literally want to go home and go to sleep. And we're talking about adults here
Right.
that are doing that. So I have a lot of respect for you and your family and your little one, and just glad that everything's going well. Just glad.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, you know, that's the amazing part that brought me to understand your story and really have this conversation was your little one connecting us and that battle, but also uh hug your people really is pretty awesome. I was on the Instagram page before I happened to get onto this call, and I really just want you to kind of lead me through how that started and the great work that you're doing.
Well, Hug Your People was funny. My son, when he was first in the hospital, he had to go down for a series of scans, and and they bring the wheelchair in to take him down, and he doesn't want to go in a wheelchair. He's pretty adamant about not going in a wheelchair. So
Right.
we said, okay, what do you want to go in? He said, I'd like to go in a wagon. So,
Okay.
okay, so I go into dad mode and I find a wagon, and we go down to those initial scans in a wagon. And then the sort of the thing that my family used to say to everyone who would come visit us, we had a big support group, so we were very lucky in that way. But we used to say, hey, go hug your people, because a lot of my friends would come and they wouldn't bring their kids, obviously, but I would always say, hey, make sure you go hug your people, go hug your kids tonight, because we are the distance. I always tell people when I'm giving talks is the distance from a soccer field and an ICU is not that far. So you
Mhm.
have to be really careful with your days. But Hug Your People came about with the premise of the wagons, and then something that my family just used to say to everybody. And people started latching onto it, and they started saying it back to us, and it started doing this thing. And then we were like, hey, let's get some hats made and just kind of spread the love a little bit. So we had hats made, and we people bought 250 hats, and we sold out of those in like a day and a half. And then we were like, all right. So it just kept being this thing. Then we started working with Alex's Lemonade Stand, who does a lot of pediatric cancer research. And I think the last year we worked with them for Pediatric Cancer Month, we kind of did their little September event, and we raised $40,000 in 30 days through just people saying "hug your people" and running.
Wow.
And so it was just so inspiring that so many people were willing to be a part of it. And Bax was my son, Baxley was really the catalyst for that. And so when we finished chemo, my wife and I kind of looked at each other and we were like, well, what do we do now? Like, this is, you know, chemo's over. We're getting the all clear. Everything looks to be in a good trajectory. What do we do now? And so we decided to make Hug Your People an official nonprofit and really go help some kids. And to date, we've been able to take those wagons that Baxley likes so much, and we've been able to place over 400 wagons with other kids who are fighting cancer.
Oh man, what an amazing idea too. Like to listen to your child and understand that, my child probably is not the only one that does not want to be in a wheelchair. Doesn't want,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a symbol of like, oh, I'm here, like let me have, my own identity, if you
Yep.
will. And I imagine that, that crazy idea is what makes it so great. You know what I mean? Like it seems like, okay, it's just a wagon at first. And I kind of chuckled a little bit, but then when you're trying to get those wins, no
Yeah.
matter wherever you can get that win, you're trying to take it. It's pretty amazing that wagon was probably a huge confidence booster.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think I'm a basketball guy too, so if you think basketball, it's like how do you turn the momentum of a game? The momentum is turned long before the winning shot is hit. It's
Yeah.
that steal, it's charge, it's that there's a play in there that turns the momentum, and we like to think that the wagon helps shift that momentum a little bit for these kids and gives them their own space and their safe spot. And we've certainly found that with our son. So it's yeah, it's been a very and the most incredible learning experience and rewarding thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah. Just thinking about it, just thinking about like the lives you touch, the impact that you're having on someone. You talked about your lowest, right? You're talking about
Mhm.
somebody, some little ones that are in their lowest and they don't even know what lowest is. And you're giving them that little shine, if you will, that little moment where they're in that positive nature. They can just keep taking that next step and then next step. That's a pretty amazing concept. Also, I love Hug Your People, like just the openness that you have. When I was on the Instagram page, it's very open, like
Oh yeah.
welcoming, no red tape around anywhere. Like just be a part of it.
No.
You're more than
Yeah.
welcome, kind of deal, right?
Yeah, well, and that's funny because that's how it really started. We were going to give the wagons to hospitals, and I was sitting there. Actually, was still in the hospital, and I was sitting there after my probably 12th or 14th email with the marketing and compliancy division of a hospital. I said, "There's got to be an easier way. This is way too much red tape."
Right. Yeah.
Like what if we just gave wagons to the parents
Yeah.
as a gift? And so but yeah, we were avoiding red tape. We wanted it to be easy and as connected as possible, person to person, love to love, heart to heart. And I think we're doing okay at that.
Yeah, no, you're doing an amazing job. And Kevin, I think you're an awesome guy. 13 months you lived on the road in a RV traveling the US, supporting Hug Your People. I'm interested in some of those awesome memories that you had with your family.
Oh, we're actually, this is the first month we've been off the road, in the last year. So when we got to the point of my wife asking, what do we do now? The idea was, let's sell the house, let's buy an RV, and let's wrap it in Hug Your People logos, and let's drive around and raise some money for these kids. And
Right.
and so it sounded like a crazy idea because we're not camping. We'd never been in an RV before, certainly never driven one. And so it was probably from that day, probably 6 weeks later, we had sold the house, bought an RV, and were had planned to head out on the road. And so we spent 13 months just traveling around the United States. We went to 12 national parks, 28 states, drove over 14,000 miles, met some amazing families, got to connect with kids, and every kid that we connected with, Bax was able to deliver their wagon and play with the kids and see them and meet them and just give them a little hope. Like, hey, everyone sees the pictures of the bald kids in cancer, but you don't see the pictures of, like, my son, who's hiking Zion National Park, and he's got a full head of hair, and he's out there, he's beating it still, and he's getting it. So we spent a lot of time out there, just traveling and trying to build more memories for my son than a hospital, and kind of heal ourselves as well, but also touch the lives of other people.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing it. And, at Self Care U, we're always looking for that level up moment. So I got this question for you. I'm interested, during that little journey, what was that level up moment that your family had? Maybe you went to, something, you just had that moment with your family. It was like, this is what it's all about.
Oh, there were so many. I mean,
Yeah.
it seemed like every time I turned around, I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming. But I think there's one personally, and then there's one sort of professionally with the nonprofit and everything. Personally, when we were in Yosemite National Park, that was my personal aha moment.
Right.
It was a reconnection to nature for me. It was a reconnection to getting outside and doing things I love to do that I had neglected for so long because I was focused on my business. And so I didn't take adventures. And the minute we were in Yosemite National Park, I was instantly reminded of why I love to go on long hikes and climb and snowboard and do all the things that I hadn't done in years. And so that was number one for me. And then we were delivering a wagon in Kentucky, and we actually got to go and have a pizza party out in the backyard of the family. And we got to talk with the kids who were older. So their siblings, we always take care of the siblings when we deliver a wagon, meaning we bring something for everybody in the household.
Right.
So these siblings were older. They were seniors in high school. And so we got to actually talk to them about how they feel about it. But we found out 2 months before their son was diagnosed, their house burnt to the ground.
Oh,
and it was just really just gratitude just spilled over me. I was like, wow, there's always someone out there who's operating through a worse situation with grace. And this family was so grateful. They were just so kind. They were so positive. They were just, and I was like, all you've been through, you've been through arguably more than I've been through. And I'm struggle with it. And they were just here like, thank you for coming. This is amazing. Like, they were just so grateful. And that reminded me that if you keep your mind and your spirit in that positivity, no matter what happens, you'll navigate the waters as easily as you can. So those are probably the two biggest moments for me.
yeah, those are pretty awesome. I love what you just said, because we always say that positivity wins, regardless. Some people think it's a little bit over the top, but sometimes all you need is that one little positive moment to just help you take that next step, which leads you into the right direction of whatever you're trying to get in life, right? So
Exactly.
and you feel about like a family that is going through that and going through way worse times, and they're still out there saying, living that positive lifestyle. It's very easy for me too. I don't have half the issues that they're running through. So I appreciate that. And what's next for Hug Your People? What's next for the Hoover family?
Well, we got my son's back in school. He wanted to go back to school, so we kind of drove back to our home state of South Carolina, and he's back in school making friends. He kind of likes that at this point. We'll still travel in the summer times, I imagine. So that's we're kind of staying the course and listening to him and what he feels like he needs. We're going to give that a try, and letting him kind of dictate his life in that way. Hug Your People, we're going to keep growing. Our goal next year is to anybody who wants a wagon gets a wagon. We wish nobody needed one. We wish that number was zero.
Right.
And we don't, 16,000 kids in the US are diagnosed with cancer under the age of 18 every year. So our goal is that anybody who wants one gets one. And that we're going to kind of keep it easy and stick to that course. Our family, we're still healing in a lot of ways, but we just want to keep our head up and keep challenging ourselves and keep doing things and having fun. I being out west, I'm hiking the Grand Canyon rim to rim in April. I want to keep doing challenges like that. I'm looking at doing Mount Kilimanjaro maybe in a year or two, and
Okay.
I think just living life, like, we couldn't do that for so long, and now it's like, my son wants to go indoor skydiving. We went indoor skydiving, like,
Yeah.
we just
That's
say
pretty.
yes to everything.
Why not, right? Why not?
Right.
And you guys have a great perspective as to why you need to say yes and why you need to hug your people. And Kevin, you're a leader in your community, and you can definitely see that. I'm interested if you had a father that's in front of you that's going through, the same cancer battle with their same little one. What would be some advice that you'd give them?
Everyone is so different, and every situation is so different. I think um, the advice I try to give every dad is, the male instinct normally is to lead the family, and that means be tough and don't show emotion and don't feel pain or don't express pain or don't talk about pain. And normally the first piece of advice that I give a dad is let everyone see you cry.
Right.
And just, if you feel it, you need to get it out, because that will make you a better leader for your family. We certainly talk to moms that are the same way. And I think it's okay to show that emotion, but you also need to have a conversation around that emotion. You can't let your child who has this disease, you can't let them see you just cry all the time without conversation. They also need to see you controlling that and being thoughtful and being mindful. And so it really is walking that balance. But most dads that I talk to, their first inclination is to shy away from the emotions. And I always say, if you're mad, aim it at the right target, but be mad, meaning don't take it out on your spouse or your partner or your work or your colleagues or your other kids. But if you're angry, find a way to express that in a constructive way so that it doesn't stay inside, and really let it process.
Yeah, that's some great advice, because our generation, males, feel this bottle up effect, right? We got to bottle it up, and we just got to hold it down for the family, when really everyone's watching you for that reaction to say it's okay to show emotion, it's okay to have a conversation about it, it's okay to talk about it, right? I agree with you 100%. Well, listen, I appreciate your time. It's Hug Your People, it's Next Crest Coaching, it's Kevin Hoover. Kevin, thanks for being on the show today, man. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Scott. This is awesome.
A big shout out goes out to Kevin for being on the podcast today and bringing Hug Your People to our audience. It's an amazing concept, an amazing guy, and he's doing some great work. Make sure that you check out Hug Your People. We've had lots of questions about the Self-Care U Level Up Living shirts and sweaters that we have. If you're interested, make sure you check out selfcareu.net for the information there, or shoot us a message on Instagram at selfcareu_levelup. Appreciate all the support that we're getting from, especially from O's in the UK. We have some great support from Canada and the US, but now we're starting to get some great listenerships from the UK. So shout outs to the people over there. Thank you for always supporting our podcast. And like always, this is Self-Care U, and we definitely leveled up today with Kevin Hoover and Hug Your People.